Let's get on with this.
All right, how y'all doing? Ricky Hi-Fi here, Episode 2, the 123's of the MPC2000. We're going to do sampling and sample editing. Let's get into it. We want to get, we talked about our inputs in here. We're going out from here, our mixer here. We have a left and a right input here. This is our gain. We're going to turn our main volume down so we don't get any feedback. It's not an issue all the time, but the way I'm hooked up, I probably will get feedback. So holding down our shift button and then number 4, sample, that's where we're at. Let's look at this page first before we get to it. There's a few things on here. You're going to see input, analog. So if you wanted to toggle digital input, analog input. I have never sampled digitally, although I don't see why you wouldn't want to. You can if you want. So I'm going to leave that in analog. The threshold, -20, that's for your automatic thing. You don't need to worry about that if you press the button manually. The threshold is just the level of the audio that's going to trip the sampler to auto record. I'm just going to leave that right where it is. That's fine. Time. All right. I had edited this already, but usually when you just boot up, it says time 1 second. So 1 second is not. You like once? No, you want more than that. So what we're gonna do is I like to go 20 seconds just as a default, and then hit enter. Always hit enter, or you're gonna be sorry. See the back is backlit, so that means I pressed enter and it's all good. Next we're gonna go to mode, mono, left. If I scroll to the right, you'll see mono right. And then if I scroll to the right again, you see stereo. That will sample both sides together, whereas mono right and mono left will just sample individual channels. You got to be hooked up in both if you're going to be sampling in stereo anyway. We're going to stick with mono left for right now. The monitor simply means you're going to be listening while you're sampling. We're keeping that on. You can just turn it off if you wanted to. I don't know why you would. We're leaving it on. Pre-record 10 milliseconds. Don't worry about that. Just leave it at 10 milliseconds. Some things you just don't need to fool with. If you want to figure that out, feel free. But just manually hit your sampling record button and you'll be fine. No need to bother. So I got something queued up here. We got the record gain nice and hot. You want to make sure your meter is peaking over at the right. Not pegged over there unless you want to get like that, drilled, real distorted sound. Which sometimes you might, but you want to be peeking over there. So let's see what we got. So we can turn it up a little.
We were sitting talking to your father. He said he'd made a payroll.
All right, I think I got it sorted out now. Yeah, I got my gain where I want it, so I'm just going to let her rip. We're going to hit record. That's all I wanted. So, this page, right after you hit stop, again, for recording, is going to say keep or retry. So it's going to ask you a few things on this page. First, it's going to ask you for the new name of this sound. I like to name everything I put in there so I can keep things organized in here and I know what's what, or kind of know what's what. So we're just going to give this guy a name real quick. His name is going to be Jay. How about Johnny. You'll notice I'm hitting the buttons here, the pads. They correspond to letters that are right here. You can do it slowly like me, or you can be better and do it fast. It's up to you. Now, you just kind of hit the button. It's got 2 letters for each pad. You hit the button if you want to go to the next. So that's M. I hit it again. It's N, M, and same letter. Now, if I wanted to do another N, I just scroll to the right, and then now we got Johnny. And if I want to blank anything out, I'm going to hit 16 levels. If I wanted to go into lowercase, I would hit pad bank. So I'm going to block that out. Then I hit enter, and then I'm done. If I wouldn't have hit enter and tried to press keep, it would have just not named, it would have been unnamed sound or whatever the default sound is. So now we name that Johnny. We press enter to commit. You can also at this point assign it to a note. I could put it into my program right there, anywhere I want to put it. We're not going to worry about that yet. I'm going to scroll that back down to 0. What I should have done first off the bat is check the playback to see if it sounded okay. So we're going to listen to it now. Yes, I like it. Blazing hot. It's super, it's in there. It's very loud, but it's not distorted. So that's what I want. It's exactly what I want. So we're going to keep that. If I wouldn't have liked that, if it would have been distorted, if I missed the part I would sample, I would simply hit retry, and it would go right back to the sampling page with the input showing the meter on that. So we're going to hit keep. All right, so that's pretty much sampling. Doing it in stereo is the same exact way. What we're going to do now is a little bit of editing. So since I kept that, like it went back to this meter page like you want to sample some more. But we're done with that for right now. So we're just going to hit shift and trim. This is going to be your basic sample editing here. The first command being trim. So we're just going to take that long sample we just took, and we're going to chop it down a little bit. And you get rid of some of the stuff that is superfluous, or that we just don't need. So here we go. John, so it says sound Johnny. That tells you the name of it. Under it, it's going to say ST:. ST stands for start. So by going there, you will be editing or changing the sample start point. If you just get right here on this number and start scrolling around, you will notice that nothing is happening, because that's a very small incremental number and it's doing a very minute thing. What we want to do is grab this shuttle on the outside, go down a couple, and then scroll. Now you see it's moving. See that? Moving. So that's about the rate at which we want to move it to do the rough sample. So to hear it, we're going to press the pad. Any of these pads. They're all just doing the same function now, just triggering the sample in its whole form. So again, we'll edit there. All right. So the sample kind of does the same thing twice, so we're just going to get rid of half of it. Now notice what I just did. So I went to start, and then I used the cursor buttons to move to end. So the end point works the same as the start point. I used to get confused when I first started, and I'd be trying to get to the end point, and I would go like that, and it doesn't do that. It works that. So cursor over to end, scroll back a couple because we want to work in big numbers, and let's see where we're at. That's pretty much all we need. So that's what we want. We can get rid of the rest. We can still manipulate it after that, but this is just a rough cut. So I'm going to now press cut. It's going to say it's discarding the start point, what's before the start and what's after the end point that I selected. Do you want to do this? I can cancel it. I can back out of the deal now, but I don't want to. I'm going to hit do it, and it's going to trim that because that's what we're talking about. All right. Okay, so now we have a smaller portion of it to work with. That's simple chopping of that thing. It's simple editing. Now, what if we wanted to isolate those kicks, that kick, that snare, the hi-hat perhaps? What we're going to do is do something called zone editing. So we're going to go to zone edit. We're just going to press that. Now, in order to do this properly, we're going to go up by sound, Johnny, go right. See where it says play X? It's saying zone. So in the default, I had moved it before. In the default, it would say all. You want to make sure you're in zone. Now, using this F6, we're under the play X, because this corresponds to these, right? All these buttons correspond to whatever's in this window. When we hit play X, it's going to play whatever we have designated in our zone. So this is all zone. So start zone. So we're going to do the same way we did the thing there on our trim. Now I can move the start there. I can also move it back, and now I have that selected. See, that's a little trick there. Not much of a trick. So when I play X, it's just going to play what I have highlighted. If I hit this, it's going to play the whole sample. Don't hit this thinking you're playing this, because you'll be wrong. So let's go ahead and then we'll go to end, and we'll adjust that a little bit because I want to make sure I got the whole thing there. So that's the kick. It's got a little guitar on it, and it's got that hi-hat there. But we're going to take it. So if I wanted to just isolate that, and I already went through this, I would now just press edit. It's going to say edit, zone, new sample. So this is the new name. It's saying Johnny Z. I don't want to name it Johnny Z because to me that's ambiguous. I'm going to name it Johnny blank K for kick, and then scroll over and hit 1 because I'm going to do that again, but this is the first one. So, and then always hit enter. You always want to hit enter. So now I'm going to press do it, and there we have it. If we, it's now separated. It's its own thing. So if we went up to the sound, to where the sound is selected, Johnny K1. So that's now its own sample. It doesn't have that other data before it or after it. It's its own thing. Just like we liked it. Okay. So that's basically that. Let's do it one more time. Let's get this snare, right? So we're back in Johnny. We selected Johnny. We're still in zone edit. You can see that selected. This is trim. This is zone edit. Let's go and get a new start point. I think that's the snare. I just want to isolate the snare. Start point sounds a little funny. You know what? It was chopped. It didn't get the... That's better. All right, good. So now we got the snare isolated. Let's do it. Let's chop it. We're going to hit edit. We're going to go back to this. I'm going to scroll this way because that's ambiguous. I want to know what this is. So Johnny, and then I'm going to hit SN because I know, and then 1. I know that that's a snare. So that's Johnny's snare. So I now hit enter. It's ready to go. I press do it. That's now selected. So that's basically how you chop up a sample. You know, I can go back and get the hi-hat. I can go back and get that other kick now. I would do it the exact same way. They're now their own sounds. Johnny K1, Johnny snare. Now you can still edit this further. So if I wanted to sneak up on the beginning of that a little bit, see, it's a much smaller sample, so we got to go small. Whoa, 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 whoa. Oh, we're in. There we go. I was in zone edit. Okay. You'll see also on here is loop. I almost never use the loop function on the MPC2000 because I'm usually using the ASR10 in conjunction with it, and it's got a lot more editing capability on the ASR. This is a very simple, basic sort of loop, and there's not a real reason to use it. I mean, you can find a reason, but like I said, for this machine, I don't use it. So, but if you do want to go into it, you want to hit loop, and then you want to go over here where it says loop and turn it to on, and it's going to be a situation where you gotta hold it down. What the hell? Oh, you got to edit the loop point. So there you go. See, it's highlighted. That's our loop section. So you hear it looping. Obviously, on a snare like that is not necessarily the most musical thing, but hey, it's your world. That's pretty much it for our editing of the samples. There's a few other things you can do. If we go into the sound and hit the open window, it gives you some options here. we'll do this one first. This is convert. So this is a mono sample. If we hit convert, it's going to ask us if we want to convert it into a stereo sample. Now, you really wouldn't want to do that because all it's going to do is take that signal and double it out, and it's really already happening through the bus. So we're going to cancel that. But there may be a time when you want to take a stereo sample and merge it down into a mono sample, in which case that would be a better application for it. Let's open that window again. Let me close that again just to go over what we did. So we just have our name of our sample highlighted, and you press open window, and it gives you these options. They also have delete. So say I didn't like that sound at all, and I was like, no, I don't want this. I want it out of I was going to say out of my hair, but yikes. So I could just delete it now, and pressing do it would do that. I don't want to do that, so I'm just going to hit cancel. Let's do that again. Open the window. One command we can do is copy. So it's gonna make a copy of that and have the same sound, but it's gonna be different data. So we can manipulate each one individually. They won't affect each other. So if I wanted to copy that, I could be Johnny. It's saying Johnny snare 1 and adding a C. But what we can do is just make it Johnny 2, even though it's the same thing. And then we hit enter and then do it. And now we have a copy of that. So we have Johnny snare 1 and Johnny snare 2. So you can change that up and edit one and not the other. Say we wanted to make the back of this shorter, we could do that. Go back and trim. Why am I still in? Oh, it's. I don't know why it's still looping. That's weird. It shouldn't be looping. Anyway, I'm probably doing something wrong. How about we turn the loop function off? Maybe that'll do it. That's it. So, and then Johnny snare 2, go into loop function, turn that off as well. Go into trim. So that one's much shorter. That one's got the arrow on the end. So that's basically it. Now, if we wanted to save this sound, what we would do is go to Shift and then Disk. I have this SCSI thing in, so that for my device, that's what I'm selecting as where I'm saving it to. But I could also make that to floppy. If I put a floppy in here, and I can hit now Save. And it says save a sound. You can go through things, the copy OS, we talked about that. Save a program sound, save a sequence. But this is save a sound. So we can, and then go down, use the cursor to go down to the file, and we can go through all the sounds that we have made here. Snare 1, snare 2, kick 1, just the whole thing. Let's save snare 1. Just hit do it and save. It's now saving that to the disk. So that's how you do that. Now that I have that saved in there, if I wanted to load it, I would hit load, view what I wanted to load in there, which would be a sound. They had some other stuff on the disk. So then I would scroll through there. There it is, Johnny snare 1. If I wanted to load that up, I would hit do it. And then it's going to ask me if I want to assign it to a pad. So let's say if I wanted to assign it to that pad, I could just do that and then hit keep. It also lets you audition it, so you can play it and hit keep. Oh, that file name already exists. Replace or rename. You know what? Just cancel, because I already know I already have that in there. But normally, it would just go into the pad. You could replace or rename it at that point. Replace, it would just put it in there, erase the old one. Rename, it would put both of them in there, and it would have a different name. That's pretty much it for the basics of sampling and sample editing. So we're going to come back around and do a program in the next episode and that gives you a little more power to manipulate the sound further. So until next time, have fun.
Get on with this.
Yeah, see you.